Good morning, everyone. At this time, can sergeants please start your recordings?
Recording in progress.
PC recording done.
Recording to the cloud is rolling.
Thank you. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's remote New York City Council hearing of the Committee on Rules, Privileges, and Elections. At this time, will all panelists please turn on your videos for verification purposes. To minimize disruption, please place electronic devices to vibrate or silent. If you wish to submit testimony, you may send it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that's testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good morning and welcome to the Committee on Rules, Privileges, and Elections. My name is Keith Powers and I'm the chair of this committee, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. Before we begin the hearing, I want to introduce the council members of this committee who have joined us here today. We're joined by Speaker Adrian Adams, Minority Leader Joe Borelli, Councilmember Justin Brannan, Councilmember Gail Brewer, Councilmember Sylvana Brooks Powers, Councilmember Crystal Hudson, Councilmember Parina Sanchez, Councilmember Ariola, Councilmember Hanif, and Councilmember Williams. Some of them are on virtual, so you don't see them. I'd also like to acknowledge the Rules Committee Counsel Lance Polivy and the staff members of the Council's Investigative Unit, Chuck Davis, Chief Compliance Officer, and investigators Alicia Vassell and Ramses Boutin. Today, the Rules Committee will consider the nominations of David Doe for appointment to the position of Chair of the Taxi and Limousine Commission and Robert Hogan for the Civilian Complaint Review Board. We're going to first start with the TLC, with the Council gives its advice and consent. Mr. Doe will be the appointed TLC chair and serve the remainder of the term that expires on January 31, 2024, at a salary of $240,171. And Robert Hogan would be, we're also seeing Robert Hogan, who appointed to the CCRB and serve the remainder of the term that expires on July 4th, 2023. CCRB members are paid a per diem of $315 for each day that they work. We are, as I mentioned, going to start with the TLC, and I'll give a quick background on the TLC before we hand it over to our nominee. The New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission, commonly known here as the TLC, was created pursuant to Local Law 12 of 1971. Chapter 65 of the New York City Charter establishes the TLC with the goal of developing and improving taxi and limousine service in New York City. The TLC is responsible for overall transportation policy and establishes certain rates, standards, and criteria for the licensing of vehicles, drivers, chauffeurs, owners, and operators. The commission includes 9 members appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council, and it must include at least 1 member from each borough. TLC members are appointed for a term of 7 years and can serve until the appointment and qualification of a successor. The mayor designates one of those members to act as a chair and chief executive officer. The chair has the power to employ, assign, and oversee the officers and employees of the organization. Pursuant to the charter, the chair's position is full-time, and the mayor sets compensation. And as noted, the chair currently receives $243,171 annually. No other TLC member receives compensation. Mr. Doe, would you please raise your right hand to be sworn in?
Mr. Doe, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Do you wish to make an opening statement?
Thank you so much, and good morning, members of the Rules, Privileges, and Elections Committee. My name is David Doe, and I'm honored to be before you today. I want to first thank Speaker Adams, Chair Powers, and members of the committee for giving me the opportunity to be before you today. I would also like to thank Mayor Adams for the privilege of being nominated as Chair and Commissioner of the Taxi and Limousine Commission. I would also like to thank Deputy Mayor Joshi for placing her trust in me to lead the commission. She has been a steadfast guide throughout the nomination process. She has been a transformative leader, not only in New York City, but also on the federal level, and I'm grateful to consider her a mentor. I also want to thank Acting Chair and Commissioner Ryan Wantija. He has been an uplifting leader at the TLC at this critical time. Commissioner Wantija has worked tremendously hard throughout his 12-year career at the TLC with various teams to provide results for the industry and the customers we serve. In his time as acting commissioner, he has guided the TLC on key proposals and the fiscal year 23 budget process. I'm happy that I will continue to be able to count on him to be a partner and a leader at the agency. I also want to thank the commissioners on the Taxi and Limousine Commission. I look forward to working with you as we steer the industry towards economic recovery. I also want to take this opportunity to speak to the team at the TLC. I want you to know that the last 2 years have been challenging for you all, and I thank you for continuing to provide a deeply needed public service during these difficult times. I'm excited for the possibility, if confirmed, to work with you hand in hand to deliver results for our industry. Each one of you are valued team members and are what drives our industry forward. Without your work and dedication, we would not be able to build on our accomplishments, and I look forward to the opportunity to work with each and every one of you. It's been my great privilege to meet with industry members, advocates, and other stakeholders during the last few weeks. I want to thank these individuals for sharing their perspectives, concerns, and issues with me. It's been tremendously helpful to meet all of you, and if confirmed, I look forward to working with you. Now, on a personal note, I would like to thank my friends and colleagues in the committee room today. I also want to thank my partner, Alex Curley, for his unyielding support during this incredible transition for him and our family. I also want to thank my mother and father for the immense support that they have given me throughout my life. While they're not here today because they are both small business owners operating a dry cleaner and a hair salon, I know they are immensely proud of their son, sitting in front of one of the most esteemed legislative bodies in the world. They will watch this hearing later tonight, and I'm excited to share with them in Vietnamese. I come from humble beginnings. My parents were refugees of the Vietnam War, and we came to America to find a better opportunity for our family. I have distinct memories of growing up, living in shared quarters with my mom and dad, and many other families struggling to survive each day. My mom worked in a Vietnamese deli, and my father delivered food so that we can make ends meet in those initial years of coming to the United States. They worked nonstop to ensure that my brother and I could achieve the American dream. As a kid who was the first in his family to go to college, I sit before you to testify that the American dream is possible. My parents were big believers in education as the great equalizer, and I'm so glad that they've continued to push me to become who I am today. They could have never dreamed of what would occur right now, their first son sitting in front of you as a nominee for the Taxi and Limousine Commissioner Chair and Commissioner. In my current role as the director of the Department of For-Hire Vehicles, I oversee and regulate the for-hire industry in the nation's capital. For the last 4 years, I've led the agency through the rise of increased competition and during the global pandemic. I've leveraged technology to help the industry in our nation's capital move forward in a number of ways. First, my team and I created a centralized reservation and dispatch system for Transport DC, a same-day taxi program for people with disabilities. And during my tenure at DFHV, I put in the hard work to ensure a more accessible fleet. I shepherded the industry through the COVID-19 pandemic and laid out a vision for the future. To help the riding public get around for essential trips, we were able to provide free taxi trips for people needing to go to the doctor, grocery store, or work. And we repurposed our microtransit program to provide hospital worker rides during late night shifts. During the pandemic, it became clear that our agency and our industry needed a North Star to help us guide through recovery. My team and I worked closely with the industry to develop the Industry Recovery Blueprint, which lays out short and long-term actions DFHV will take to help industry build back better. My vision for the TLC is to create a work environment where the talented staff can flourish, and together we will support an industry that innovates, diversifies, and thrives while making our fleet more accessible, greener, and meeting the needs of the riding public. My first priority will be to fully implement the Medallion Relief Program and the MRP Plus programs to ensure that every single medallion owner can take advantage of the program. The TLC has done a great job at getting many medallion owners to participate, and we know that 3,000 owners might qualify, and 300 owners have successfully received funding. I will work expeditiously to ensure more lenders participate in these programs so that we can build a stronger foundation for the taxi industry moving forward. Furthermore, I will continue to work on diversifying the industry to help increase ridership to pre-pandemic levels, while seeking out additional opportunities such as government contract work and packaged food delivery. I also want to enable our driver with all the tools necessary to maximize their revenue while customers get the services they need. Moreover, for-hire vehicles have a role to play in lowering congestion in New York. In addition, we need to think about automated vehicles and how we can fit them in our industry in a way that is equitable, safe, and accessible. I am a data-driven leader. I want to dive into the rich data that the TLC has to understand more of the current issues and trends. Working the problem by working the data will be how I and my team identify solutions and other innovative strategies to medallion issues, driver pay, congestion, accessible, and green fleets. We must leverage historical and real-time industry data to support our drivers and get more rides. I'm extremely passionate about building a more sustainable future by facilitating the growth of our green fleet. As Commissioner, I will review what has worked with the battery electric vehicle pilot and see how we can get more licensees to convert from their internal combustion engines to fully electric vehicles. The time to do this is now. The for-hire industry has a role to play in bringing emissions down and being part of the climate solution. I'm excited to lead the industry into a new frontier where we come out of the global pandemic stronger and more resilient than ever. I want to thank the New York City Council for having me here today to speak about my upbringing, experience, and vision to lead the TLC. I'm excited for our partnership and look forward to working together. I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to you, to Alex and your parents on your nomination. I know they'll be watching later, so I'd be very proud of your nomination. We'll move into questions now. I want to recognize the speaker who may wish to make an opening statement and may ask some questions as well.
Good morning, Mr. Doe, and welcome. Thank you. I echo the sentiments of my colleague, the chair, in congratulating you on this nomination. It is very critical to the city of New York that we get this right. So I congratulate you for being a nominee for this position.
Thank you, Speaker.
I have a great deal of taxi TLC drivers in my district. It is a district that is an extremely diverse district, and a tremendous number of drivers have been affected by what's gone on with the TLC in New York City over the past few years. They've been traumatized and they feel that they've been left out of the process in a lot of different ways. My first question is going to be, what do you see as, and I know that you say you're data-driven, so I'm going to go ahead and make a giant leap and assume that you have read and know the history of the TLC of the City of New York over the past few years and some of the missteps that have gone on. What do you see as some of the critical missteps taken by former commissioners to get us to the place that we are right now, pandemic aside, just speaking about the recovery and the trauma of these drivers? What do you see as the missteps?
Well, thank you so much, Speaker Adams. And let me just say this, is that there have been a lot of missteps on the government side and on the private side. And what we need to do is to ensure that we don't make those mistakes again. That means to ensure that the medallion crisis in selling these medallions so that we can plug a budget hole never happens again. That we're no longer in the business of escalating the prices of medallions, but ensuring a stable market for them and ensuring that we continue to support our drivers. And, you know, let me just say this, is that drivers have a partner in me, and that every single step of the way, I will work with them to ensure that they get relief and that they get to be a part of the MRP, the Medallion Relief Program, and the Medallion Relief Plus programs. It's a tragic incident of what happened in the last few years, and I'm here to use my skills and my abilities from the outside and review what has worked and what has not worked, and to support our drivers. Because this is a time that we know that coming out of a global pandemic, drivers are hurt more than ever before. And we need to uplift our drivers, uplift our industry, and move on a path forward for more rides and more diversification so that there is more revenue in the pockets of our drivers. But my main goal will be to get drivers under this mountain, out from under this mountain of debt. And I have, over the last few weeks, spoke with our advocates, spoke with our drivers, and learn what what are their main issues, and they want to ensure that MRP is fully implemented so that we can support them. And that's what I've been hearing over and over, and they have my commitment and my partnership to ensure that we get through that together.
Thank you very much for that answer. You mentioned in one of your responses the expression that you've used is work diversity. Can you explain to us exactly and break that down what work diversity means?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking forward to working with the folks at the TLC to have a team that is reflective of the immigrant story, of the cultural sensitivity, so that we can work for the many immigrants. 95% of our TLC drivers are immigrants. And so, I totally understand where they come from because my parents, who are small business owners, are immigrants. And, one of the things that we work on is that, every single minute that they invest in advocating with us, they're one less minute working on the roads, making that extra dollar. And so they have my commitment to have a workforce and environment where the TLC is reflective of them to ensure that we can provide services that are culturally sensitive in the language that they speak, and to support them. In my 8 years, over 10 years actually, in DC government, I prided myself in language access. I prided myself in a workforce that is representative of the industry that we serve, and I will continue that commitment here at the TLC.
We know that your background and expertise is certainly within Washington, D.C., within the D.C. area. Can you give us some of the similarities that you see in bringing some of the responsibilities in what you're currently responsible for in Washington, D.C., compare it to New York City, which is very different, really, than any city anywhere. So what are some of the similarities that you see, and what are some of the key differences that you see in transferring those skills to New York?
Yeah, let me say this, Speaker, is that in DC, in New York City, in almost every city in this country, drivers of for-hire vehicles have been hit disproportionately during this global pandemic. Rides almost went to zero during the height of the pandemic, and we're only continuing to recover now. We have amazing data that supports that, we're increasing rides from year over year, and we will continue to do that, but we need to support innovation. And so where I see is the similarities is that, everyone is facing the same issues, and what I did in DC to bring it to New York City is to ensure that we have more technology here, to leverage e-hailing, to have a culture of that. And I will continue to look at different aspects of, how did we recover our industry there, which is still, I think, recovering, right? In implementing an industry recovery blueprint that shows that, we need to look at ways of relieving drivers so that they can come back in. That means trying to figure out what has been working and what hasn't, and why have many drivers not taking their vehicles out of storage in New York City yet. And is it some barriers to insurance? Is it the fees that the TLC charges? What is the biggest barrier?
All of the above.
Excuse me?
All of the above.
Yes. And understanding that and supporting them so that they can get their vehicles out of storage and onto the roads to support them and their families.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I will just conclude with this question, then I will pass it on to my colleagues. Your top, and I believe you mentioned this in your opening remarks, but if you could just reiterate if you have already mentioned, I would say your top two, not even three, your top two priorities if your nomination is successful, your top two priorities day one.
Yeah, so the first priority is to understand where we are with the MRP and MRP Plus programs and get that to many more drivers, right? Only 300 out of the 3,000 have successfully gone through the process, and I want to understand why and get all 3,000 towards that. I also want to ensure that we work on a more accessible and green fleet. I have done amazing work in DC to get our vehicles on the road serving those who need waves or wheelchair accessible vehicles so that they can get to points of destinations for their daily activities of need, for grocery stores to go to the doctor's appointment, and I'll look at ways to expand accessibility. And then also looking at how we can uplift the team at the TLC. It's been a difficult time. And you know, I went into DFHV at a time where morale was an all-time low in DC. And you know, I think that, you know, coming in, supporting our team members, being a value-based leader, and then trusting our team members, looking them and ensuring that they have steady leadership is what I will bring to the TLC. And I'm very happy that you know, I have this potential, if nominated, to bring my skills there.
Thank you. You just jogged something else in my mind sitting here listening to you. We haven't talked at all about, and I'll just ask this, then I'll stop, I promise. We haven't spoken at all about the competitive nature of the industry over the past few years with Uber, with Lyft. How do you see that coming in if your nomination is successful? How do you see that coming in dealing with the morale, because it's taken toll on the drivers as well, that competition and some aspects of that competition? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, definitely. You know, one of the first things is I want to look at the Owner and Driver Resource Center, building that up, ensuring that, you know, not only are we giving them financial and legal advice, but looking at how we can provide mental health, right? And, you know, breaking down the stigma of mental health, because I know in minority and immigrant families, there is a strong stigma of getting the assistance. And so I want to build up different ways of supporting our industry, from physical health to financial to legal help.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to ask a few follow-up questions, and then I'll, of course, go to my colleagues for questions as well. You've talked, rightfully so, about the Medallion Relief Program, outreach to make sure that people are getting the resources they need and deserve, and something that we have spent here in city government a lot of time on the last few years is that medallion crisis. Just taking a step back, your thoughts on the Medallion Relief Program, and do you believe the Medallion Relief Program is sufficient to address this underlying crisis for drivers and medallion owners that we've been talking about for the last few years?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Chair Powers. And I've reviewed the Taxi Medallion Relief Task Force report, and one of the main recommendations is coming up with a program to provide driver relief. I believe the MRP and MRP Plus programs are good frameworks for a program, but I need to understand almost, you know, a year into this program, where we are, how we get more drivers into the fold, and support it, and medallion owners, right? Right now, we know that, you know, drivers and owners who have 5 medallions or less can get supported by this program. But I need to see inside, right? And I don't have that insight yet, right? That we need to understand how we can further implement this program. In DC, I have been able to implement various programs very quickly, from student transportation programs to Neighborhood Connect, microtransit, and then also taking on a full Transport DC disability program. And so, you know, I need to have the benefit of stepping in and understanding what is going well and what we can fix on the program.
Appreciate that. And of course, we would, once you're in a position, would love to, you know, hear steps that the TLC can take to promote the program and get greater participation from lenders. You touched on an issue about accessibility, the WAVE vehicles. Obviously, there's been this discussion, debate for years about exactly how to do that in this industry. Advocates of persons with disabilities have long argued that taxis and FHV should be made fully wheelchair accessible. Can you give us your recommendations, what you would do to ensure that more taxis and for-hire vehicles are available to people in wheelchairs? And similarly, should those accessibility requirements that apply to taxi cabs apply to FHVs?
Let me first say is that the TLC has a model for the entire country. They have an accessible dispatch program, and then also a regulatory structure and incentive structure that really supports our accessibility. And then I will also tell our advocates today that they have my commitment to continue the push towards 50% in the coming years. Because I know accessibility is at the core and great equalizer. What we have done in DC is seek out additional monies for incentives. Working with the federal government, our agency received $630,000 to ensure that we compensate our drivers for deadheading, that we compensate our drivers for canceled trips, that we provide repairs for our WAVE vehicles, and also to ensure that we continue to support a green future by supporting EV hybrid WAVE vehicles.
Thanks. And just one or two more questions here. A question that we asked in your pre-hearing questionnaire, but wanted to kind of resurface and discuss. We are in a moment in the industry, obviously, where there is great concern about the status, particularly after the pandemic. Ridership is down. The changes in the way that patterns that people are living, changes in the workforce, habits with work from home. We're obviously looking at an industry that is on edge right now when it comes to the state of the industry, particularly the yellow taxi industry that sees a serious decline. And I would note it seems seemingly age gaps in terms of who is using yellow taxis. Can you give us your thoughts on what you think the trends will be in the years to come, especially when it comes to the yellow taxi industry? And if so, what does that mean for the future medallion, and how does this agency encourage or maintain the health of that industry in light of those trends?
Yeah, well, definitely. Thank you, Chair Powers. What I will be working on is to ensure that our medallion owners have a supporter in there. And so what that means is that, I am highly optimistic that we will get to pre-pandemic levels in terms of the number of trips. But it won't always be just the street hail culture that we are used to. We need to provide supports on the e-hail side and promoting a culture of e-hails and getting trips from all parts of the city and not just parts of Manhattan that they're used to on the street hails. We need to ensure that many of our drivers are technologically savvy so that they can engage in that process. I will be working to fully implement the Medallion Task Force recommendations, including providing more technological assistance by providing more, working towards a full soft meter system, a digital meter system, similar to DC. DC was the first in the country to go to all soft meters, where now we can do automatic updates over the air so that we can update our drivers on where trips might be in real time. Be it, did JFK just let out a lot of passengers, or did a big event let out at Madison Square Garden, or wherever that is. Supporting our drivers by getting more rides is a critical part of my mission.
Got it. You were going to answer part of my next question, which is how do you accomplish pushing yellow taxi cabs out into the outer boroughs, which has been a problem, obviously, for decades. One more question. You noted in your pre-hearing responses that you would seek to allow drivers and companies to diversify the kind of transportation they can provide so they could have more reliable income streams. Can you tell us what that looks like in practice?
Yeah, well, I'm very proud of the work that I did with Mayor Bowser in DC, in which she invested on a regular basis about $13 million direct to drivers on various rides, right? And so one of the programs that I see synergies with here in New York City is the Access-a-Ride program and the Access-a-Ride On Demand program, where right now it's piloting for 1,200 residents, but we need to expand it more. We need to allow more New Yorkers into it. We need to allow, like DC, every single person who wants an on-demand ride to be able to get one. And with Transport DC, we have done that. We've also, and so I'm willing to partner with the MTA on that. We've also took in almost $5 million annually to provide a good hourly wage for our drivers of $30, $25 to $30, to support a microtransit service where We get people who are in transit deserts to and from metro stations, grocery stores, medical appointments, hospitals, so that we can support our residents on transit equity. And then, there are other opportunities, including non-emergency medical transportation, including foster kids transportation, including taking kids to and from school. And we are one of the big cities that, for the first time, has taken general ed students to and from school with a program. And so I'm very proud of my achievements there, and I hope to take that and diversify our industry in New York City.
Thank you. I have one more question.
Okay.
I lied to you. One of the biggest issues that we have discussed here in the City Council in the last term and the term before that was, of course, the cap on vehicles and trips and the efficiency standards for those vehicles, which I believe had been waived during the pandemic, if I'm correct, the efficiency things. Do you have opinions on those, and do you believe they're working? And also, if I'm correct that the efficiency standards had been relaxed or relieved during the pandemic, should they come back, or should they be changed, or what changes would you seek there?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Chair Powers, for that. During my last few weeks, I've met with our for-hire advocates, I met with our livery advocates, our street hail livery advocates, and our black car advocates. And what I've heard over and over is that we need to look at that cap. And so our communities have my commitment that I'm going to look at the cap, if confirmed, as a TLC chair, to see if we need to take a look at that and lift the cap. There are a variety of different factors in that, as you mentioned, utilization rate, congestion, outer borough service, making sure that people are fully connected within our system. The big thing here is to ensure that any raise in the cap is fair and equitable. But what the council did in 2018 was put a cap in, and that was a great first step to stabilize the industry as a whole, and I want to congratulate you for that. And so we look at it, or the TLC, looks at it every 6 months, and they'll look at it again later this year, and we will see what we can implement at that time.
Thank you. Of course, the question that faced your predecessor, which is about electric vehicles and how to integrate them into the cap and whether they fit in there as well, which I know you'll take a look at. We're going to now move to council members who may have questions. We're going to start, of course, with Councilmember Crystal Hudson, who is here in person.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. I appreciate some of the things that you've shared already, including Access-a-Ride. I'm chair of the Aging Committee, and so the overwhelming the folks who use Access-a-Ride are overwhelmingly older adults and also folks with disabilities. And so you mentioned expanding that program, which I think is great, and you have my full support in doing that. But you also mentioned the MTA and working with the MTA. So can you just talk a little bit about how you see your relationship working with the MTA? I think, historically, it's not always been the easiest for city officials to get things done when working with the MTA. So just curious to know how you're approaching that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. There's always opportunity to work with both state level and regional agencies, right? I'm coming in as from someone who's on the outside who wants to set a new course and a new relationship. And I don't expect it to be easy, right? Especially working with a huge agency such as the MTA. But we have been successful in DC at my agency in working with the WMATA, which is a regional transportation program, to get that program. It took a few years, right, to get that program into the Department of For-Hire Vehicles, and now we run it exclusively for DC residents. And there is potential to do that, and it might take an investment from the TLC and then also from the city's budget to make that happen. And I'm very proud of the commitment that we got to that point in DC, and I'm going to look at ways to continue and look for opportunities here. That pilot program here in New York City, and then also the Transport DC program that is full-fledged program, is a bridge, is a model, and ensures that our residents gets to and from the grocery store, medical appointments in a timely manner, that a dialysis appointment is no longer a 6-hour journey, right? And we want to ensure that, all people who have disabilities are supported and get a ride that they need.
Thank you. And then, I think Councilmember Powers just mentioned the cap on for hire vehicles. And that to me was a reactive response. It wasn't proactive. And I think so often government is reactive and not proactive. So can you just talk a little bit about your vision for how you will be a proactive leader in an industry that's already experienced market disruption, and who knows what could happen in the future, but I think it's really important that we anticipate those things.
Yeah, thank you so much, Councilmember. And you are right. We need to continue being proactive in all matters at the TLC. And I have been that proactive leader in DC, and I will bring that proactive leadership here in New York City. And where I see that we really need to look at is proactive regulations on autonomous vehicles. We need to make sure that if we allow them on our streets, that it is fair, is equitable, it is accessible for all users. And that we ensure that no job is lost, that we ensure that drivers are fairly compensated, that they're retrained. And I see that as the new frontier, and we've taken that step already, forming a task force and a regulatory scheme in the District of Columbia, and I will take a look at that coming here to New York City if confirmed.
Great, thank you. Just going back to the Medallion Relief programs, just how do you plan to build trust among the drivers who've been let down, quite frankly?
It's going to be difficult. I won't say it will be easy, but making sure that we work with our advocates, our stakeholders, making sure that we connect with them. And I've already done that over the last few weeks, making sure that I go into the room, listen to them, be a partner instead of putting more regulations, ensuring that their voice is heard, sitting down with them, talking to them, and making sure that I understand from the 300 that have gone through the program what has worked for them, and for the 2,700 or the 1,700 others who have applied and who have not gotten through the program, understanding how we can push more drivers to that finish line so that they're not burdened with that debt, so that they can get over through and on the other side of that mountain of debt that they're under. And so they have my commitment and partnership to examine and to ensure a program that is reflective and supports them.
Thank you. Just a couple more. Does and will TLC support raising meter rates for all drivers and payments in distance and time for app drivers?
Well, thank you so much for that, Council Member. And the TLC has noticed 2 hearings later this month on May 23rd and on May 24th to look at the meter fare and then also to look at driver pay increases. And it's been 10 years since the last meter fare increase. With rising inflation, rising costs at the grocery store, rising costs at the pump, we need to take a strong look at that. But there is a process, getting stakeholders' voices involved, and and if confirmed, I'm going to go with that to that hearing, open-minded, and see what can be done. But look, it's been 10 years.
Thank you. And then lastly, are there any plans to cap TLC fines, and if so, which ones?
Yeah, so in DC, I've always taken a strong enforcement approach while providing a 3-step escalation: a verbal warning, a written warning, and then a notice of infraction. I know that the good men and women of the TLC are trying to do a good job on the enforcement side. But we also need to ensure that we are fair and that we are supportive of our drivers, especially during this critical time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, council member.
Thank you. We're now going to go to Councilmember Brewer, followed by Councilmember Brooks Powers, who are going to be over there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and congratulations, Mr. Doe. There's a couple of questions. First of all, you have about maybe 6,000 yellow cabs in the garages, and obviously you'll need drivers. So I guess obviously it's a driver issue. How are you going to recruit? Now, certainly the fact that you understand their plight, that you have experience, that they can trust you, and hopefully will make enough money. So I just was wondering, between the garage operators and getting drivers and getting the cars on the street, I guess, you know, you might answer it with some of these innovative ideas, but I just would like you to talk about it a little bit. There's a lot of cars and a lot of drivers.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Councilmember Brewer. You know, one of the biggest things that we need to look at is lowering the barriers to reentry from the vehicles that are in storage, right? And so in DC, I looked at the regulations, and I will do the same here at the TLC to see what can be streamlined and how we can support our drivers to ensure that we waive fees that, you know, the TLC charges. And that's what we've done in DC. We have waived all fees associated with licensing and putting a vehicle on the road with the mayor of DC's commitment of $2 million on waiving those. But what we also know is that, you know, I'm not there yet. And so I want to review what can be done and so that we ensure that we can be fair and equitable and try to get our drivers back on the road.
Okay. And we have in New York City something called congestion pricing coming up. Obviously, as representing Manhattan, I'm, you know, already getting lots of complaints. I'm supportive of it. We need the funding for the MTA. But one of the questions, you may not have an opinion on it yet, would be to have yellow and greens not have to pay the congestion fee. Do you have an opinion on that, or are you still waiting to see?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Councilmember Brewer. And so one of the things that we definitely need to take a look at is for-hire vehicles and yellows have been paying a congestion fee, and they paying for an equivalent of almost $414 million in fiscal year 23 budget. And so my concern is that we need to ensure that our for-hire vehicles do not double pay. And so I'm going to make sure that we work with the MTA and work with state legislatures to ensure that it is fair and equitable in terms of congestion pricing.
Okay, I like that answer. In terms of one of the challenges we have here is cab drivers not picking up people of color, not picking up when people want to go uptown, out of borough, etc. Again, this is a trust factor. This is your you know, your way of warning and so on. Was that an issue in DC? And if so, how did you handle it?
Yeah, so we are, you know, very proud that in DC that the drivers are very professional and that they turn on their meters, accept credit cards, and take folks across our city, wherever the passenger may ask. But I know that that's always not the case, and so we take refusals to haul of any sorts incredibly seriously, and we have a complaints process in place. I will bolster the complaints process here, if confirmed at the TLC, to ensure any complainant gets fair due process and to ensure that the complaint is fairly heard. But we'll also need to ensure that we equip our enforcement team with the capabilities to ensure that refusals to haul of any sort is not tolerated, and there's a zero tolerance policy for that.
Okay. And in DC, you have airports as we do here. Are there any changes to the airport policy? I don't travel that much, but I do get complaints that the cabs aren't there. Sometimes it's hard on the drivers because they wait for a long time, etc. I didn't know if you had some suggestions, because we're very much, as you know, need to have good services coming and going from the airports. I didn't know if you had any suggestions that maybe improve service in DC at National, et cetera.
Yes, yes. So we work with the authorities at the airports And I will continue working with the New York City Port Authority to ensure that there's not illegal street hails and illegal activity at the airports, Councilmember.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I go to Councilmember Brooks Powers, followed by Councilmember Sanchez.
There's a legal construction happening, right? And then there should be a tenant protection plan.
Thank you so much and welcome, Mr. Doe. It's good to see you virtually. I look forward to being able to meet you in person. As it's been stated in different ways already, before the pandemic, Uber and Lyft drivers, as well as our yellow cabs and commuter vans, have been facing a really difficult time. In New York, we were hit pretty hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, but even going into the pandemic, we saw how the changing of the industry has impacted the livelihoods of the yellow cab drivers, the commuter van drivers, and what have you. And I'm interested in understanding on record, because I know you and I have spoken already, what tools in your toolbox that you have in your experience that you'll be able to apply in your new role if confirmed to help bolster these various categories of this industry. Also, some medallion taxi apps like Curb and Arrow have entered into a deal with Uber to allow taxis to receive e-hails from Uber. What is your perspective on this partnership? Are there any regulatory issues you believe TLC should take to protect drivers and riders alike? Do you think there may be an unintended consequence as a result of this arrangement? And then the last thing is safety. I'd like to know what measures you'll take to help strengthen the safety of the drivers and the passengers. Earlier this year, there was an allegation about a driver and the safety of one of the passengers, and just wanting to make sure that there are policies in place to be able to protect folks from any type of danger when they're getting rides and what have you, but at the same time also making sure the drivers are safe. So interested in terms of what policies you would be bringing with you in that regard as well.
Yeah, I'll take your questions one at a time, Council Member. I believe the first question was regarding commuter vans, and I'm very proud of the fact that I've outreached to the leaders of the commuter van community to ensure that I understand the issues and their plight. And what we know is that commuter vans have always been there for this city through natural disasters, to transit strikes, and will continue to be there for residents of the outer boroughs. And they provide a strong interconnection with our city's transportation network. And so I will continue to work with our commuter vans to ensure that they are sustainable, to ensure that they're innovative, and to put mechanisms where they can get more rides. In DC, we as a city started a commuter van service called Microtransit DC Neighborhood Connect, and it connects residents in transit deserts to and from hospitals, subway stations, to grocery stores, and it provides that through an app. And those who are unbanked and underbanked could, and those without a mobile phone or a smartphone could call a dispatch to get a trip, and then they could also use cash to pay for those trips. And so I'm very passionate about transportation equity, and I think that the commuter van industry plays a critical part in that. I think your second question was bringing in regular trips to, or for-hire trips to the yellow industry. This is something that the industry has begun doing. incredibly. I think that they are looking at it on a slow and measured approach to see how it will work and to see how it can be fully implemented. The TLC, as I understand it, is looking at the rules and regulations around that. But let me just say this: more trips, diversity of trips is incredibly important, and I will take a look at how we can promote innovations like this while ensuring a thriving and sustainable for-hire industry for all participants. And then your final question, Council Member, was regarding safety. I take safety incredibly seriously, be it on a passenger or be it on our roadways. And you have my commitment to take a zero-tolerance approach when drivers or passengers are acting in an unsafe behavior to any one participating in that ride.
Appreciate that. And one last question I just want to also ask is in regard to what do you believe TLC can do to ensure that as the economy begins to recover and people start using rideshare apps more and more, that unintended consequence of minimum pay and utilization rate rules that the City Council and the TLC enacted in 2018 doesn't create like an unintended burden such as a lockout from app companies. What are your thoughts around that? What do you think TLC can do to ensure that that doesn't happen again?
Well, thank you so much, Council Member, for that question. And it is my goal that a lockout does not happen and that we're fair and measured in looking at the utilization rates and looking at how that works for our outer borough residents, looking at it for how we have on congestion and also how we use our vehicles, right? There are many factors that go into that, and if confirmed, we look at, the TLC looks at it on a every 6 months basis to ensure that we are fair. But look, on May 24th, we will be looking at the utilization rate, and I will see and make a decision, if confirmed, if that needs to be re-implemented. At this time, when rides are still not at pre-pandemic levels, I'm not sure we are going to look at that yet, but that is part of the process, right, of getting stakeholders involved, listening to our stakeholders, looking at the data, and ensuring that we are fair and equitable when we look at those the utilization rate.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you should you be confirmed in moving this part of the transportation industry forward. No further questions, Chair.
Thank you. We're now going to hear from Councilmember Sanchez, followed by Councilmember Hanif.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Mr. Doe. It's good to see you again. Thank you again for taking the time to meet with me and just talk a little bit before the hearing. I appreciated that. So I want to start by just appreciating your sort of focus on a data-driven approach, your background that connects you to a lot of the driver population and community here. And we're both urban planners, so I really appreciate that the perspectives you bring. So that the first question that I want to ask is about congestion. And Councilmember Brewer started to talk about congestion pricing. But the way that I understand it is that MTA ridership, our public transit system, is around 60% of pre-pandemic levels for a variety of reasons. Our congestion on our streets is actually at the same rate or in some places a bit higher than pre-pandemic times. And so as we think about the recovery of the sector, of the for-hire vehicle sector, I'm wondering how you think about, the tensions, of course, that there are between congestion, use of streets, and then, you know, protecting this this group of workers in our city that are such important contributors.
Yeah, so definitely, council member. So, you know, congestion is being debated at the state level currently, and like I said previously, for hire vehicles, both taxis and high volumes have been paying $2.50 and $2.75 per trip, respectively. And so what my position is that we need to come up with a framework that does not double charge our vehicles for hire, our taxis, because they have been paying into the fee to a tune of $414 million for the fiscal year 23. And so we need to ensure any scheme, any regulatory scheme is fair, but also we recognize that congestion is a real issue. And so ensuring that supply and demand meet will be an incredibly important indicator that I take a look at. Look, we don't want an oversupply of vehicles on our roads, and so we need to ensure that we are conscious of that fact.
Thank you so much, Mr. Doe. And then, you know, the second question might seem like a little bit counter to what I just asked, but, you know, in thinking about the cap for drivers, thinking about the power that Uber and Lyft, the app companies have over drivers, you know, I have received a lot of complaints from businesses that operate in my neighborhood and in neighborhoods like ours across the city about, one, the way that the cap has, you know, because there's no set number of drivers or licenses that are adhered to in the cap, it's simply a cap and there's attrition. I've heard a lot of complaints about drivers not being able to get back to driving after stopping during COVID times, and that affecting their ability to feed their families on the one hand. And then on the other hand, these smaller bases that, you know, have been operating in New York for many years before the app companies, struggling to be able to provide and work with drivers, right? So I guess my question is, you know, how do you think about one, the drivers that used to be drivers that have not been able to come back to the roles, and then two, these smaller companies that are being affected. Do you think that there's a role for the city of New York to play in protecting those companies?
So I'm very proud of the fact that I visited with our livery, our street hail livery industry, and our black car industries over the last few weeks to understand what is going on and to understand what the issues are. I've also reviewed the Black Car and Livery Task Force report. In there, the number one recommendation that it suggests to the TLC is to look at our small bases, our liveries, and how do we ensure that our livery bases can still support our outer boroughs, right? And so, you know, you have my commitment that I will take a hard look at the cap, especially for our small businesses, and maybe look at running a pilot. And on the other side, I want to lower the barriers for drivers to re-enter and to make a living. And so I will take a look at that and see how, within the TLC structure, we can do that. And you have my commitment on that.
Great, thank you. And then the last question is one that I'll always come back to, and that is, you know, about the power difference, the power differentials between the drivers and the big app companies, and specifically around the fees that they are charged for trip. I've heard from some that they make as little as 30 or 40% of what a rider is paying is what ultimately ends up in the pockets of a driver. And so, you know, understanding, like, of course, I worked on this legislation as a staffer in City Hall, and we've taken strides to protect driver pay in New York City. But what more do you think that we can do? Are there particular fees that you would be committed to, you know, looking at from the app companies to protect driver pay and just make sure that the drivers who are doing all of the work are the ones that are, of course, benefiting the most from their work?
Yeah, I'm extremely proud that New York City is on the forefront of protecting driver pay. In New York, we adjust pay based on a number of factors, and we look at increasing that pay every few months. And so most recently, we had a pay increase just last month for our drivers, and after expenses, many of our drivers make $18 an hour. And so that is a pathway to the middle class. It's a pathway to ensure a living wage, and I am committed to always working with our driving community and to support a wage that is good for them. I have met with IDG, I've met with our individual stakeholders, I've met with NYTWA to ensure that I understand the issues that drivers faces, and I'm very passionate that I will be a good listener and a compassionate listener and ensure that drivers get a fair shake at every moment of this process, especially as a regulator.
Councilor Sanchez, I think you're trying to unmute. I think Councilor Sanchez has one more question. He's been muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. No, thank you. I appreciate that. And then, so the last question is one that I alluded to is, so New York City, the cap that we set doesn't require or set a target number of licenses to have on the road. I know you answered this question in some ways in your pre-hearing response about whether there's a right number of licenses to have on our streets. And that's a tough question to answer, but what do you think are the most important factors to consider in determining the number of licenses that we do have active on our streets?
Yeah, so for-hire vehicles play an important place in our transportation ecosystem, especially in our outer boroughs. So I want to take a look at, outer borough wait times. I want to look at congestion. I want to look at driver pay, and I want to look at utilization. And so those are the things that I would that would allow me to take a look at it and make an informed decision on what the right number and right cap might be.
Great. Thank you so much, and all the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Council Member.
Thank you. We're now going to hear from Councilmember Hanif.
Thank you so much. Hi, David. It's great to meet you and learn more about you, and especially your pro-driver work in DC. As you know, the South Asian electeds and our colleagues worked very closely with the New York Taxi Workers Alliance for a city-backed guarantee to restructure the medallion debt, even going on a hunger strike with them to win this fight. And then more recently, getting one of the opposing lenders on board. Given the mass majority of these drivers are Bangladeshi immigrants, I look forward to working in close collaboration with the TLC and driver leaders to ensure full dignity of all drivers. I've got several questions. In the TLC hearings over the past few years, we've heard from drivers and their loved ones about how the job has taken a toll on their mental health. In 2018 alone, 8 drivers took their lives. It's clear that this is a crisis. And so I'd like to know, as TLC Commissioner, how will you ensure that drivers can receive affordable, language accessible, and culturally competent mental health services? Will you support establishing a health and pension fund for drivers?
Well, thank you so much, Council Member, for that question. And it is my belief that we will work with the Owner and Driver Resource Center to look at how do we provide socially competent and destigmatize mental health at the TLC. I'll take a look at that, and I know that as I traverse our city in the last few weeks, we are doing very progressive things across our city, and everyone is conscious about driver health, especially mental health, and especially bringing drivers, especially immigrants who have been hesitant to use mental health over the last few in our lives, and me as well, right? And so, breaking down that stigma and ensuring that drivers that, hey, you know, we can do these group sessions, we can work together, and we can understand what our issues are and support each other. And that's my commitment, to provide mental health services that drivers can come into and get supported at the TLC. We already provide financial and legal services, and it's, there may be a way forward on mental health services as well.
I look forward to that, and I'd really encourage you to look more closely into establishing a health and pensions fund. And, you know, I mentioned that because more broadly, ride-hail drivers have been undermined by their illegitimate classification as independent contractors rather than employees. And this industry-wide misclassification has deprived these workers of the right to employer-funded healthcare, overtime pay, and the right to join a union. Do you support the reclassification of these workers as employees?
Yep, so definitely, council member. So one of the big things that the TLC is incredibly progressive on is driver wages and ensuring that drivers make a living wage. And so we want to continue making sure that that happens. Also, that, you know, the classification is being debated on the state level. And so I want to ensure that that process goes through and that we support whatever the decision is made. But, you know, we also have to listen to our stakeholders to ensure that this is what they want, right? I want to make sure that I provide outreach and understanding with our driving network to understand that, hey, you know, these are the benefits, and these are also some of the other things that might happen if we're classified one way or the other. And so I want to make sure drivers fully understand, support them, and support their decision-making process, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that drivers make what they deserve and get the benefits that they deserve.
Thank you. Given the diversity of stakeholders, how would you facilitate outreach?
Yeah. So, you know, I've worked for 3 different mayors over time, and one of my biggest proudful moments is working as the director on Asian and Pacific Islander affairs for Mayor Bowser. And what we did there was we put events up that were culturally competent, but also providing services in the language that they need, providing translations for the entire government, and ensuring that they have services, that they have documents in the language that they need, and then also assistance carrying out those business things that they need to do with the government. From our dry cleaners to our drivers to anyone who's doing business with our city, we wanted to make it easier for them, and that is my commitment at the TLC for our drivers who speak different languages, come from different cultures, be supported, and have a voice in our government.
Thank you. I look forward to that work. And my final question is, currently app-based ride-hail companies are able to institute log-offs and permanent deactivations that prevent individual drivers from working on their platforms without providing any justification. As TLC commissioner, would you support rulemaking that implements just cause protections for drivers that would require companies to provide legitimate reasoning for dismissing a worker?
Yeah, so I do support due process for our drivers and ensuring that they have due process when they are locked out or when they are eliminated from the app. It should not just be a decision from one complaint without due process. There should be considerations, and I'm committed to working with you and working with the TLC to ensure that there is due process for our drivers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any more council members with questions, so thank you for your testimony and answering questions, and of course, congratulations on your nomination.
All right, well, thank you so much, council member. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. We are going to now move over to the Civilian Complaint Review Board. And I will just give a quick overview of the CCRB, and then we'll head over to Mr. Hogan. Civilian Complaint Review Board, commonly known as the CCRB, consists of 15 members of the public. Members shall be residents of the City of New York and shall reflect the diversity of the city's population. The members of the board shall be appointed as follows. 5 members, 1 from each of the 5 boroughs, shall be appointed by the City Council. 1 member shall be appointed by the Public Advocate. 3 members with experience as law enforcement professionals shall be designated by the Police Commissioner and appointed by the Mayor. 5 members shall be appointed by the Mayor, and 1 member shall be appointed jointly by the Mayor and the Speaker of the City Council to serve as the Chair of the Board. If appointed, Mr. Hogan will be eligible to serve for the remainder of a 3-year term that expires on July 4th, 2023. I want to welcome Mr. Hogan here. Thanks for being here today. If you wouldn't mind, can you please raise your right hand so we can swear you in?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. If you desire, you can make an opening statement.
Good morning. First, I would like to thank the New York City Council, Chairman Powers, Speaker Adrian Adams, for letting me be a part of your unpredictable and busy schedule. My life has been a life of both advocacy and struggle. Struggling as a young boy for my identity, and second, finding my place in this world that was wider and greater than the tenements of the 2-room public housing apartment I shared with my siblings. My mother struggling, and not to sound like a here we go again story, struggle was just a part of growing up in the 60s. We were poor, but didn't know it. We were financially compromised, but you couldn't see it. We were given the bare necessities of food, clothing, shelter, a ton of prayer, a lot of love, and it carried us over. We knew we couldn't afford certain things, and we were taught the value of what is earned, that what should be appreciated is what God had given us to sustain ourselves as a unit, a team, and a family. Most of my energy was geared towards protecting my sisters, Robin and Roxanne, and my little brother, Richard, now a pastor, of his own church, whose only competition is our sister, evangelist Robin Critchlow, who's also a minister. Our family was close-knit, and we thankfully were able to dodge the waves of heroin, crack cocaine, and prison that covered over 5 decades of my life. These were those times where the evolution as a people would be purposely interrupted by individuals, government, and systems. Whatever was out there to catch us into a life of nothingness was thrown at us. But no weapon formed against you was our national anthem. We knew back then, as we know now, that family and community was everything. And if we were going to do the work at making this a better world, we had to be present in the fight, and the fight would first begin at home. I am beyond blessed this morning, seeking your faith in me that in this role, I will bring my expertise and my selfless mind and spirit in adjusting and changing that which has for so long been our accepted abuses. I, like all of us here this morning, envision a better city, a better democracy, and a better life, where all this country's citizens are protected and treated as equals. And the biased ways of addressing anything under the law, good or bad, abruptly comes to an end. We stand on the shoulders of great ones that have come before me, some even making the ultimate sacrifice for change. And I'm committed to be a student, and a teacher as this chapter of my life unfolds if I'm elected. Again, thank you for having me here in front of you this morning. May you all continue to do the great work that you are doing for this city. I will never forget what was told to me during my early stages of advocacy and servitude. Quote, "You're going to have to take some beatings to do this work," unquote. Yes, but although the beatings will still come and the opposition to do right will always be present, I will remain focused and do the work that I've been sent here to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. I will now recognize the speaker who may have a few questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few, not many. Good morning, Chief of the Streets.
Good morning.
Welcome to the People's House.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I welcome your brother also, Pastor Hogan. Welcome to the People's House. I don't have too many questions for you, Mr. Hogan, as you are a constituent of mine, and I've known you for well over a decade. I know your work, which is stellar. I know your reputation in our district, which is stellar. I know your commitment to not just the people in our district, but to the youth in particular in our district. You and I have seen a lot of work together, particularly with your work with Life Camp. which is an amazing organization under the crisis management system for the city of New York. Your knowledge and your relationship between the community and law enforcement is also very extensive. So I just have a couple of questions for you because I do want my colleagues to get to know you as I do. You have an insight when it comes to a particular disconnect that I recognize as well, and that is a disconnect that would certainly play a role in your position with the CCRB and with NYPD. And that is the relationship or disconnect between leadership in NYPD and the rank and file. So if you would just expound on that, what you've seen over the years and how you see that that disconnect can be knitted better.
Thank you, Speaker. The disconnect is very obvious. I don't think it's intentional. I think what happens when a particular thing is sent down by leadership, it's internalized in a way of first it's theory, and when you get on the streets, it's practical. And it gets very difficult when police officers are thrown into an environment that they know very little about, and nuances often they come when something, an issue has already taken place. So you see them in the state of emergency, you know, as opposed to the state of relaxing, learning the community, knowing what to do, and stuff like that. So they're forced for laws and government to do a particular thing and act a particular way, with no chance or time to relax and see what's actually going on. So what I've done with both leadership and the rank and file, you know, I've been along with Life Camp, as the chief of streets, I've been doing roll calls. The roll calls get from just meeting each officer, and then we get into personal situations and situations that, issues that might have occurred already inside a precinct. We do this with 3 precincts in 105, 113, and 103, and we're also PSA 9 out of the Palmer, which is New York City Housing Authority. And so I just think that the difficulty is not that officers don't want to understand the law. That's one thing. But then also officers don't understand the community, which sometimes can be even a greater problem of the way the lackluster of executing the law.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in your assessment. And I'm just going to ask you one more question before I hand it over to my colleagues. Mr. Hogan, what do you see lacking in the CCRB that you can potentially bring to that body?
I'm gonna answer that question in two folds, right? This morning, when I woke up and prepared to come here, I said, why? Because I'm always on the scene, right, on these things, right? I think the engagement where yesterday morning we're in Rosedale because October 10th of 2021, a gentleman climbed up a tree. Mm-hmm. Yesterday morning I got a call, he went back up the roof.
Did he really?
So we went back out there, and we see different agencies. We've seen the NYPD, we see the ambulance, we've seen social services, we've also seen the hostage negotiation team. And we were allowed to get, Life Camp and myself as chief of streets, we were allowed to get in touch with the borough command and let the precinct go. This is the second time we did it. So we were able to get this guy, got his mother some services. I think when the CCRB comes, they should have a hat that says CCRB, and they come out, and people already identify, know that they're being watched. You know, in essence of that, there's no chance, there's no taking, because videotaping is one thing, but to see that someone's that's professional, that's a part, and going to be impartial, but part of the structure of the city that wants to do right, and know that somebody's there. I think, you know, it would get along a lot quicker. And that was just one thing. Another thing, what I think the CCRB should do is really understand that listening totally to fact, and they have to be on the same page. There should be no wrangling. There should be positions that's taken from individuals when investigation and evidence is brought forward. But we have to find a way to do simple things. You know, a lot of us try to approach the superhero way, and that's when the stuff gets real bad. If you teach it during the simplistic terms, decisions will become more simpler. And I think we just need to address these issues as soon as possible, you know, as a collective, and then come to a decision that's respectful and benefits everyone.
Thank you. Needless to say, I think that you would be a tremendous asset to the CCRB. I congratulate you on your nomination.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Speaker.
Wish you the best and can't wait to work with you.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I had a couple of questions. You've sort of answered a few of them in your last round, but I wanted to just keep going. And thanks for answering the questions. One of the issues that people talk about is making the public more comfortable with filing complaints without fear of retaliation, and of course also knowing the process of how to do that. Can you any thoughts on what steps the CCRB can take to make members of the public more comfortable without and more aware of how to file complaints, particularly without any fear of retaliation?
Thank you, Chairman Powers. I think would it be interesting if that we train officers that also see wrong. So when someone makes a complaint, you would have an officer that identified that and would support that and support that family. You know, what happens, the persons that are filing a complaint are only afraid of police and the government. You know, they're afraid of what is the process? What if I go this way? But if you really, not train, but you really build relationship and make the community and the police a collective, there won't be an officer that's afraid, hey, I back you up with that. I think this should happen. This really did happen. I've seen that. You know, I think it's not really outrageous to envision a better way that police and community gets together, but filing a complaint should be also supported by some of the members of the department that's seen other members bring that force or that abuse.
Great, thank you. We have a few members who are asking questions, so I'm going to get over to them. We're going to, I think, hand it over first to Councilmember Borelli, followed by Councilmember Brooks Powers, and they're going to be up on the screen over there.
Hi, and thank you. Just a quick question. Your personal thoughts on whether the CCRB or the police commissioner should have a final say in the disciplinary action for officers who were adjudicated as having violated department policy?
Well, first we have to examine what worked and how was it in the past. And if some things didn't work, we need not to be afraid to move from it. And if it was that the commissioner had to make that final decision, as a team, the community, the city should be a team. And let's go back, get into a huddle, and discuss with one another what didn't work. And I'm for whatever works. And if what we're doing wasn't working, I'm not afraid to try something different.
Well, it's a team scenario now, but to be clear, if the CCRB's recommendation and the commissioner's recommendation are in disagreement, which authority should have the final say?
Well, it's almost like, Judge, it's like the jury. I mean, there should be no final say. Once you give a final say, you know, I think it should be, you know, you look at the evidence, and let's be real clear about evidence that is brought from of us. If we can remove all biases, you know, and be objective, I think, suppose objectively, there should be a dismissal or firing. But then the person who has the ability to make that final decision, look at it subjectively. And so that means we haven't moved anywhere to make it a better process. We just continue what is happening. So if we give it to, and we have to really look into it, really not just examine it, but wait and say, hey, you know, I think if we convince ourselves to do the right thing even greater and go in the chambers and have that greater fight, you know, with one another to come out and do the right thing, not for the people, but the right for the persons that are victims, and for right to the officer that might have been abusive and helping them out. If you continue to allow officers on the force that are abusive, it doesn't do anything good for their self-worth. When you talk about Trump, that.
Right. No. I mean, I'm not asking a trick question. I think this is one of the more controversial topics that involves the CCRB in general. That doesn't involve a specific case. Someone has to make the final decision. should it be the CCRB's role or should it be the police commissioner's role?
Well, it was in the past the police commissioner, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I don't want to throw the question on you, but from my opinion, that hasn't always worked. And what happens is, we've seen what happened to the last police commissioner that had to make that decision. It eventually added up to, it might not be the reason, but a couple of more months after that, he was no longer here. So why would you want to put that pressure on a whole individual? And you can have a body or a board that make the decision, and that decision would look from other people. Well, there were 5 people in there. There were 10 people in there, and they can't just blame it on one individual. And once you blame it on that one individual, then you blame it on the system. You usually can't blame it on the system if CCRB made that decision. But if you want to keep pushing it to the commissioner, then you blame the system. Then you separate, once again, the community from the police, the community from the mayor, the community from elected officials. And we don't want to, we try to get rid of all that. I would, as far as my position on that.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Councilmember.
Thank you. We're now going to Councilmember Brooks Powers, and we'll be followed by Councilmember Williams.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello? Okay. Sorry about that. Hello, Mr. Hogan. It is great to see you. It is such an honor to see someone from the Southeast Queens community being considered for an appointment here. And I just have a brief question for you. I'd like to hear about your experience at LifeCam and your perspective on the Cure Violence and Crisis Management System programs. You have significant experience liaising between community members and officers. How will that experience inform your work on the review board?
Well, right now I'm in the presence of writing. First of all, thank you very much, Councilman, for your question. Right now I'm in the process of writing with 2 inspectors, one in 113 and 103, 3rd Precinct, the idea of how we're going to have a safe summer and what does public safety look like. As you look at the relationships that we were able to do, the relationship didn't start off easy. There was concerns with the police department, with us rolling up, see a lot of armament, see a lot of people. There's a lot of danger on us, and law enforcement is concerned about their safety. We already seen someone hurt. So we go on the scene, and we jump out. And what happens through the 10, 11 years, the 12 years since the crisis management system has been in effect, we was able to develop a relationship to know that we are equal partners. And that's really important, that you created a relationship where we're equal partners. I don't think before, I know we were in your district yesterday morning at 7:30. I just spoke about that. 7:30 in the morning, I get a call at 7 o'clock, the guy goes up again,
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
The second time.
Yes, and
Thank you.
I thought I was dreaming, But this, and it was a lot more intense last time. The city spent a lot more money last time, and we got a call from the city this time. We got a call from the inspector. Last time we got a call from the community, which the relationship, because what we did prior, we got a call. And so instead of 3 days, it took an hour and a half. And the longest was just waiting for the guy to come on the roof and want to talk to us about what he was getting ready to do. So I think working with the police department and ensuring that we are equal partners, that I'm no greater than them, that they no greater than us. They have a job to do, and so do we. And if we come together as equals, I think we respect each other a whole lot more.
No, and I thank you so much for that. And I thank you for your continued partnership in the community and being not only an advocate, but a guardian. And I know that when confirmed, you will do a great job on the CCRB. So thank you so much.
I thank you so much, Councilmember, for your respect and your work that you do out there. It's busy over there.
Thank you, Councilmember. We'll now go to Councilmember Williams.
Hello, I just raised my hand. I have no questions. I just wanted to simply express my full-hearted support of Mr. Hogan. I've known him since, I don't know, maybe I was like 10 years old when he was my camp director. He has always been a person that is practical, always seeks to find different alternatives for young folks to just have a straight and narrow path, committed, reliable person, and I'm excited for this appointment. And it's just a pleasure and full circle moment to be a council member and to be able to even express these comments of support. Also, as a former board member of Life Camp, I do know his work in the community, working with the police department and also the community on some of our most pressing public safety issues. So thanks so much, Chair, for allowing me to just express a few words of support for Mr. Hogan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, and you were actually 8 years old, okay?
Been very important distinction with Bank here. I appreciate that. Thank you, Councilmember Williams. We'll now go to Councilmember Sanchez.
Hello, and very nice to meet you, Mr. Hogan. I appreciate that. If she was 8, I was probably 8 too. So my question is, it's kind of I'm just wondering your position on it. It's very general, you know, as someone who has worked in the crisis management system, has, you know, worked cure violence, you know, have such a deep experience in the street and also with all of our institutions in the city of New York. You know, where do you think we go from here, right? I think Councilmember Borelli asked you a very interesting and important question that is being debated in all sorts of circles about, you know, who gets the final say, CCRB, or is it the police commissioner? But just in your view, you know, in terms of how we're doing in terms of police and community relations in the city of New York, what do you think are the most important sort of changes that we need to see in the department? And, you know, what will you be, you know, what's going to be your orientation on the CCRB as these cases come before you?
Well, you know, even before the orientation, I often say, they say, how do you better police and community relationships? You have two separate, you know, populations that are basically ill. And if you don't solve the illness of one population, it's going to spread back to the next. And you fix that, and it's going to go back to the next. I think we got to solve the illnesses individually from each. We have to fix the police department, and I think we have to do a whole lot of fixing up in our community. I'm a community advocate because I hold my community accountable and responsible for some of the things that we do. That's before the police come in. And, you know, I'm not a cop. I've never been one. You know, what we do also, and I want to say this, and I'm going to go back to your question, Councilmember, thank you, is that we hire formerly incarcerated individuals. That's what the crisis management is set. What I instituted in 2012 is that somebody suitable eventually has to be credible, okay? Because you just can't come home, you know, because you have a reputation as this person, and then when you come home, the young people are influencing you more than you're influencing them. And so after we make these individuals sustainable, credible, suitable, credible, and then we have to make them sustainable, that I have proof that these young people's lives are changing, okay, that they're just not being sensationalized by your stories, but you're effective enough to bring social change and change a particular behavior. They call it societal norms. What's happening where I live at is not a societal norm, okay? And so I think I would raise a whole lot more individuals like my brother and myself, Pastor Hogan, who have been dealing with children, brothers against killing each other since 1989, chemistry since 1984, you know, and these organizations that were directed to young people to make them do different things. And we didn't escape crack. We were just doing something different at that time, you know? And so when you look at the police department, they are evolving. But what happens, the evolution changes whenever there's a new administration. This administration is doing marvelous. I wake up smiling because I know the speaker. I never, I mean, and she's done work, and we've been out, we cried, we've seen people die in front of us, we cried together. When you have a relationship like that, it's going to be more trusting, more caring. But when you have a community that is over here and the community that's over there, and they have no kind of experiences, and only time they get together when there's an incident, that's a problem. We have to bring more engagement between both of those populations after we make them well. As we make them well, not waiting for them to get well.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Hogan. I appreciate your perspective.
Thank you, Councilmember, so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. I believe that's our last Councilmember for questions. So thank you for your testimony, answering questions. I don't know if we have anyone here, but we are now open the floor to the public for comments. Comments for 2 minutes per person. We have actually 2 individuals here. So we are going to now call on first Jean Ryan.
Hi, I'm Jean Ryan. I'm president of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York, also called DIA for short. We are members of the Taxis for All campaign, a coalition of disability rights groups that have been fighting for accessible taxis since 1996. Mr. Doe did not meet with us. He said he met with advocates. I don't know if he met with anybody who has disabilities, but he did not extend any hand to anybody from Taxis for All campaign. We found out about this hearing last night, so we're doing the best we can. There are so many concerns that we have, and it's very frustrating. Access-Ride is for transportation to anything. He was talking about getting to grocery stores and medical appointments. We can go to nightclubs on Access-Ride. We can go anywhere. That's what Access-Ride and paratransit are for, to get us wherever the subway and the buses take people. So I think he has to get out of that mindset that we have to be taken care of and we have to get to our doctor appointments. That's one aspect of taking public transportation, but it's not the only one. We can go to school, we can go to work. He didn't mention any of those either. It's like we're these poor disabled people that you got to feel sorry for us and we need help. We need accessible transportation, and we need, he said he's going to work towards 50% accessibility of the taxis. We need accessibility of for-hire vehicles also. And we don't want just 50%. We want 100%. And the reason we want 100% is because drivers are prejudiced and discriminatory towards us and don't want to take us in the on-demand program. I live in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. I can't get a vehicle to come out here or take me out here. And so, even with Access-Ride, on the on-demand, it's impossible. If you see a yellow cab in Bay Ridge or most of the outer boroughs, it's like an Elvis sighting. You can't count on it, and we all know that. So there's a lot of work that the TLC
Thank you, Ms. Ryan.
has to do.
We have to cut you off there, apologies, but we will make sure that the mayor's office and the commissioner have your request to also meet with them in light of what I believe you just finding out about the appointment. So we'll make sure they know.
We
Thank you.
meet regularly with the TLC. We have been meeting regularly. We met a month ago with them.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your testimony and comments. We are now going to move to testimony from Joseph Rappaport.
Starting time.
Thanks. My name is Joe Rappaport. Along with Jean, I'm a member of the Taxis for All campaign. I'm also the executive director of the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled, and we appreciate the chance to testify today. We were a plaintiff, as Gene's group was, in the lawsuit that forced the TLC Commission to convert yellow medallion taxis to 50% accessible here in New York City. And we also advocated and won some accessibility in the for-hire business, including on Uber and Lyft. Accessibility doesn't happen by chance or by good wishes. Accessibility typically happens when outside forces, disability advocates usually make it happen. We do this by showing up, by getting officials to realize that accessibility both is fair and makes sense. And of course, we often have to go to the courts. This is not some, as we did with this case, this is not some abstract issue for BCID or for the taxis campaign. And Gene described some of the ways that people use the taxi system just like anybody else. We appreciate the council's emphasis on accessibility in its written questions, and we see that Mr. Doe has some limited experience in getting accessible vehicles on the road in Washington. Here are some of the questions that we want to ask Mr. Doe when we meet with him. We want to hear about his commitment to get wheelchair accessible taxis back on the road. We've raised this several times with the TLC over the years. It has not happened yet. How will he achieve this? How will he make the taxi and for-hire system fully accessible? 50% was a compromise. And Gene is right that there are, if there's no question that every cab and for-hire vehicle is accessible, people won't pass us by. It won't be a struggle to get them back on the road. How will he work with New York City? Okay, let me just finish 2 sentences and I'll be done. How will he work with New York City Transit to integrate the yellow and green taxis and accessible for-hire vehicles into the Access-a-Ride system? And how he will make sure that electric vehicles, if they're introduced, are fully accessible rather than having a 2-tiered system. I appreciate the chance to testify, and I look forward to meeting the new chair, assuming he's confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your testimony as well. And we have one more individual. We have Pastor Richard Hogan, who is here to testify, and we'll give you 2 minutes.
Good morning, distinguished body. Chairman Powers, Speaker Adrian Adams, I just want to just thank you, first of all, for this day, you being God's servants. And this is my brother. I just want to say real quick, I was always amazed at him. First of all, he was always trying to save the community. At a very young age, drug was running rampant in our community. And I used to say, you're not God. Stop trying to act like him. We were threatened on several occasions. If you didn't know, in 50 Cent's book, he taught 50 Cent how to fight. He was always going against people. Even in 50, not behaving respectfully, he holds people accountable. He didn't allow me to drink, me to smoke, all these things he didn't allow me to do. He was my father. My father left us at the age of 2. Mom and them departed, but this brother just stayed in my life, and I'm honored here today because of this, and I thank you so much for that. And one more story I want to tell you, that he calls the community. He challenges everyone. That's why I believe for this body, if they were to confirm him, it would be such a blessing for the body. And I just want to say, I started as a sergeant here years ago, and the Lord called me off this job to go and do a massive work in our community. I remember it was 35 members. I was here 1 week, and it went to 51. I almost lost my mind. Thank you, Anna. I thank you for being the Lord's servants, you all. God bless you. And I finished before my minute was up. And my name is Pastor Hogan, and I approve this message.
Now I know you work for the city council. So you gave us more time. Very, very endearing message, and we appreciate it.
Do I get a rebuttal to that?
It says a lot about you that your brother would get up and say that about you. Not everybody's brother would do that for them.
Yes.
So congratulations, and thank you for that. We are going to thank to Mr. Doe, Mr. Hogan, and everyone who participated in today's hearing. We are going to recess today's hearing and reconvene on Thursday, May 19th for a vote on both of these nominations. The May 17th, 2022 meeting of the Committee on Rules, Privileges, and Elections now stands in recess.